first of young thieves as 24 kids take over the Chevron station in Lincoln Heights.
Just ambushed the store and ransacked it pretty much.
Owner Jerry Salib says it happened in an instant. You can see the young boys grabbing boxes full of candy, as many chips as they could carry, even cases of beer. Salib says they got away with more than $1,200 worth of goods.
When it's a gang of them at 24, 25 people, it's like an organized crime type of situation, you know, like those 25 kids could easily overpower my cashier. And
thankfully, the cashier wasn't injured. The drama erupting Thursday evening at Daly and Mission. You can see the thieves ride up on their bikes and scooters and run in. So many packing into the small store, they were running into each other in the chaos of their crime.
Targeted and organized, premeditated, organized, and it's, of course, they're gathering so many of them that I can't even stop just one kid, right? It's 24, 25 kids, so, you know, it leaves me kind of helpless.
Salib says they've had minor theft before, but nothing like this. Adding to his frustration, he says the LAPD couldn't help.
They said there was nothing they can do about it. They said it's considered shoplifting, and shoplifting isn't something they can really go after.
Boy. So, yeah, again, we have to talk about another story that is a clear demonstration of you get what you vote for, right? What happens when you have Democrat/liberal leadership that hates police? They don't like law and order, okay? They don't like actually enforcing the law, okay? They allow so-called minorities to get away with crimes because apparently arresting minorities is a form of racism. Holding them accountable is a form of racism. And what you get is a city of chaos and destruction, right? And I think that is a great way to describe at least some parts of Los Angeles because they are experiencing mass flash mobs, right? You know, the stories that we've covered over the last few years about flash mobs in California and LA coming out of nowhere and just robbing businesses. Yeah, that's still happening, right? It's still happening despite the alleged attempts by the state and some of these local municipalities to get tougher on crime. However, the problem is that they still are not punishing these individuals who are participating in these crimes because apparently, again, police don't take shoplifting seriously, okay? So without further ado, I want to react to a story involving a business owner who is going to be devastated after realizing that there's nothing he can do about the flash mob of young scholars stealing and ransacking from his store. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Thank you for that. How about this? Hiding behind their faces behind masks and hoodies, this flash mob of bike-riding robbers caught on video ransacking a Chevron food mart. And this is just the latest in a series of similar incidents with dozens of people, most of them minors, rushing into stores, stealing items, and then escaping before the police get there.
Yeah, KHLA's Lindsay Pena is live outside that store in Lincoln Heights with more. Lindsay?
Good evening, Rick and Mary Beth. This Chevron is at the corner of Mission and Daly Streets here in Lincoln Heights. And as you mentioned yesterday, it was overrun by teenagers ransacking the store. I had a chance to talk to the owner earlier, and he says he's fed up. Surveillance video from outside a Lincoln Heights Chevron store shows dozens of young people riding up on bikes and scooters. Seconds later, they're then inside, grabbing everything in sight.
They just came in like it was, Halloween trick-or-treating.
Justin Salib is the store owner and says he was alerted by his alarm company and cashier about the brazen thefts.
Came in, they saw what they wanted, they grabbed whatever they want, and it wasn't just like grabbing one item or two items, it was grabbing boxes.
Salib says the 15 to 20 kids who looked to be no older than 15 or 16 years old took large amounts of snacks and energy drinks and just left.
Yeah, so again, what is the excuse for this, right? What is the liberal/progressive excuse for this? Oh, well, they hungry, right? They just hungry. They needed some food. Their parents are poor, right? This is probably the excuse that progressives would make for this type of behavior. However, the problem is that this behavior happens because you have bad parenting. And the reality is that not only are these kids not being held accountable, but their parents aren't being held accountable. And this is why you see this, okay? Good home training would result in kids knowing better than to participate in these type of activities because they know there will be severe punishment for participating in this type of activity. I mean, these kids aren't even covering their faces, right? A lot of these kids, they're just walking in and they're just stealing because they know that there's nothing that can be done about it, right? That they're never held accountable. They're never punished by law enforcement or their parents, right? So therefore, this is why they do it, okay? They're not even trying to hide their faces. And this is, again, a very diverse mob here, right? Of astronauts, investment bankers, nuclear scientists, lawyers, doctors, surgeons, right? You all know all of these individuals, according to progressives, are going to grow up and be positive contributors to society, right? They're just struggling because they're poor. And that excuses this behavior.
When the cops showed up minutes later,
They said, well, this is considered shoplifting. We can't do anything about it. Have a nice day.
LAPD did confirm to KTLA they responded to the call and that there were no reported injuries. Salib says he's growing tired of dealing with issues like this.
So when is enough going to be enough? We're all like small business owners. We all pay our taxes. We all do everything the legal right way. And at the end of the day, we get the short end of the stick.
That's not enough. That's not enough when you live under socialism, right? Under socialism, you should make zero profit, right? You should make no profit. And these kids should be allowed to steal away your profit because they're poor. And because you are an evil capitalist, you deserve it, right? You deserve to have all of your stuff stolen because you have to give back to the poor, right? You are exploiting your workers. You are a bad person because you are a business owner, right? Because you own a business, because you have capital. That is why you have these socialists justifying these soft on crime policies. Again, a lot of this stuff just comes down to the Marxist ideology of the left, right? That's what it really comes down to. Yes, you have to suffer because you are a business owner. These people really believe that it's okay to have shoplifting, right? Because they assume that those who are shoplifting not because they are lazy, they don't want to get a job, there's no accountability, they don't have any home training, right? No, not because of that. It's because they need it, right? They felt the need to shoplift because they're poor and because capitalism has treated them so badly, right? And it's okay because this business owner has more than what he needs, right? And that's why they don't take shoplifting seriously. That's why they don't take it seriously. The root of why they don't do it comes from Marxism. That's what it is, right? When these people realize that, then that's when you'll understand that voting for Democrats and their Marxism, their socialism, is snake oil. That's what it is, especially for a business person. This is why they're leaving, okay? No, you cannot operate a business when there's no accountability for crimes, theft, shoplifting being committed against your business. When there's no accountability, this is when people leave. This is when they leave.
At this point, Salib feels he has no choice but to absorb the loss, paying the cost to replace the stolen inventory and restock his shelves.
There's no consequences. And the crazy part is these are children. These are high schoolers and middle schoolers. Like, where's their parents?
Again, that owner tells us that the police who responded told him there wasn't much they could do. This was simply a case of shoplifting.
Wow.
We're in Lincoln Heights. Lindsay Pena, KTLA 5.
Nothing we can do, right? We got camera footage with their faces. I mean, clear as day. They can be identified. According to police, nothing we can do. They were just shoplifting, bro. Again, what type of incentive structure does this create? Okay, it creates an incentive structure for kids to continue to do this, knowing that nothing can be done. When these business owners leave, what leaves with them? Well, their jobs leave, the tax revenue leaves, and once that leaves, what do these socialists have left? Right? What they got left? They ain't got nothing left. That's why it all falls apart. That's why every single last one of these cities starts to turn into a hellhole when you allow these socialists to govern and to run away business. That's what ended up happening. This guy is not going to be able to operate. He's going to have to close this down. He's going to have to shut it down. That or pay for security, which again, eats at the margins, right? Unnecessarily having to pay for security because the government is not doing their jobs, right? When guys like this leave, guess what? They have less tax revenue. Less tax revenue means they can't pay police. When they can't pay police, they can't hire more police officers. They can't afford overtime. Then guess what? They got to cut back. When they cut back, guess what? More crime. That's what's happening. That's what happens.
And kids take over the Chevron station in Lincoln Heights.
Just ambushed the store and ransacked it pretty much.
Owner Jerry Salib says it happened in an instant. You can see the young boys grabbing boxes full of candy, as many chips as they could carry, even cases of beer. Salib says they got away with more than $1,200 worth of goods.
When it's a gang of them at 24, 25 people It's like an organized crime type of situation, you know, like those 25 kids could easily overpower my cashier. And
Thankfully, the cashier wasn't injured. The drama erupting Thursday evening at Daly and Mission. You can see the thieves ride up on their bikes and scooters and run in. So many packing into the small store, they were running into each other in the chaos of their crime.
targeted and organized, premeditated, organized. And it's, of course, they're gathering so many of them that I can't even stop just one kid, right? It's 24, 25 kids. So, you know, it leaves me kind of helpless.
Salib says they've had minor theft before, but nothing like this. Adding to his frustration, he says the LAPD couldn't help.
They said there was nothing they can do about it. They said it's considered shoplifting, and shoplifting isn't something they can really go after.
Salib says given their tactics, he's sure the thieves have struck before, and he's hoping they'll be held accountable before they commit another calculated crime.
There's other gas stations all within the area, and these type of things happen all the time, especially nowadays. So be ready and be cautious.
Yeah, I wouldn't get my hopes up if I was this guy, right? Thinking that they're actually going to do something about this. They're not going to do anything about it. And ultimately, again, this is what you have to live with as a business owner until you decide to leave, until you decide to pack up, sell everything, and leave, right? Which, again, will happen, right? That eventually will happen, because there's no way you could operate a profitable physical retail business when theft is not punished, right? When shoplifting is not punished, when police say, hey, we can't do anything about your store being robbed, right? You having your whole store inventory stolen, okay, in an instant, we can't do anything about it. We can't hold anybody accountable. Yeah, when you're living in that type of environment, you can't survive, right? You can't survive, okay? But again, this is what happens when you vote Democrat, right? When you vote for these type of policies that, again, it stem from Marxism. They stem from Marxist ideology. When you vote for these type of people, this is what you get. This is what you get. So, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.